you the Straight Talk Radio call for Tuesday, September 15th. It's going to be a quick call. It's going to be a very short call, and maybe the very best call I've ever done. So hang on to your buckle in. We're going to cover some really important stuff in a quick, very quick format here. Before we get going, though, I want to make sure that I take time to thank everybody who makes dinarupdate.com the website that it is. All of our moderators, chat copiers, news researchers, they're awesome. They are, it's not any one particular personality that makes that website what it is. It's a group of people who continually, every single day, do a tremendous job of research. It's breathtaking. And the base, and I've heard this said, no matter who comes or goes, it's the broad base of people that continue to do that, the community, and I so appreciate you guys. You do a fantastic job of supporting one another. Real quick, I want to make sure I thank all the people who advertise our calls, Dinar recaps, Dinar Tech Gives, IQD calls, anybody who's told anybody about us, forwarded an email, referred anybody, joined, and speaking of joining, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dinar Updates. And if you're not part of the Deuce list and our updates, current exchange list, you may want to go ahead and get on that, because as of tomorrow, there's some very, very pivotal things that are about to happen in Iraq. Let's get to this. Yesterday, and by the way, the bulk of this is going to be rebutted and corroborated by articles. If I don't have them posted, I will before the end of the day on the blog. I do put several articles that are critical on the blog still, with a little bit of commentary. I don't use them as a repository for every single article out there like I used to, but I do make sure I get several of the most important articles up there. And today, I have been on a little bit of a late cycle last few days, just kind of getting because I'm taking a little more time for things to develop. Yesterday, there was this Bloomberg article everybody was all upset about. It was last couple of days. Bloomberg article, and I called it the Doomberg article, because it was talking about all the, stuff going on in Iraq. They might have to devalue a little bit, just to blah, 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 whatever. And I said, listen, folks, you're listening to the Central Bank of Iraq. They can't even figure out what his real name is. First of all, they can't figure out what his real name is. And secondly, this guy might not even have a job as a dishwasher in 30 days. Why do we care what he said to Bloomberg? And they're notoriously bullish on this thing anyway. I mean, if you look at their historical perspective, they put out all kinds of garbage that's as bad as they can think about. And then immediately afterwards, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I will make sure I post a copy of this article on the blog for today. Was yesterday, Holly Warren, who is one of our fantastic news researchers, came up with an article shortly after that Doomberg article that was out of the Parliamentary Finance Committee, and they said the same thing I did. Essentially, they essentially did a dissertation on why the Iraqis are strong. None of these factors matter, and that it's going to be just fine. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they even alluded to the fact that it was going to get stronger in the future. So, and also, Najib was quoted just real quickly in that same article. And by the way, Najib is the one that a couple of weeks ago, out of the Parliamentary Finance Committee, who was calling for an RV, essentially. Now, you can call it what you want. You can call it a float or a managed upward movement or upward pressure or more value or whatever you want to call it. But she was asking for more value over the last couple of weeks. So, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this article was from the chairman of the Parliamentary Finance Committee. I'm not sure, but you know what? Just check me on this. It'll be on the blog for later today. So that was out yesterday. Doomberg article. Parliamentary Finance Committee comes out and says, that guy's all left, don't listen to him. Here's the real story. Which, by the way, exactly points out everything I've been saying for some time, is that there's a conflict going on there. And obviously, Alok is, he's covering for Maliki. He's a Maliki sycophant. He's been there, the obstructionist all along. He'll be lucky if he's been around 30 days. Parliamentary Finance Committee comes out and rebuts that Doomberg article. One thing I noticed about the Central, and that was the first thing. 4 things I'm going to cover here. Second thing I'm going to cover in today's call was the CBI auctions. Let me go look at this real quick, and I'll just narrate these numbers for you. auction results from today was the 15th. One thing that I'm noticing is that they're kind of spreading the wealth, so to speak, in the auction. And it really appears to me that it has the flavor of being more in line with a legitimate auction. 171 million US dollars worth of foreign currency was moved around, and it was spread over 26 banks and 10 remittance companies, 36 entities. That's really odd. And that's kind of been holding true for a little while now, particularly after these Abadi reforms are really starting to ramp up. So Abadi's gone after corruption, and what's happened is these auctions are essentially roughly cut in half the dollar amount, and it's not just 12 companies, it's more like 30. Essentially, they're spreading the currency around in a lot of different areas, which would seem like a much more balanced approach and would have the flavor of less corruption. Is kind of what that's my take on it. It's pure speculation, but that's just what it looks like to me. It looks like Abadi's reforms are geared towards getting this anti-money laundering scheme out of the Central Bank of Iraq, and the numbers seem to fall more in line with that program. Third thing was reported on the Observer earlier today, and let me make sure I updated that. Yes, there it is. I just refreshed and updated it. And it was reported earlier today that Abadi's cabinet has approved Maliki's exit and the withdrawal of Maliki government laws. This Vice President Maliki is history. The article that goes along with that, or that corroborates that, reads this exactly. Cabinet approves bill to cancel the post of Vice President of the Republic Act. And that was as of today's Council of Ministers meeting. So the information offices of Abadi said in a statement that the cabinet approved the draft to cancel the post of the Vice President of the Republic Act. That's going to be a law, folks. And by the way, if you're wondering if Parliament is actually going to vote that law through, the last time they voted on Maliki was the term limits law, and it was almost unanimous. It was a wide referendum against Maliki. I think this one is going to be a little bit different because there are other vice presidents in there, but they, so it's kind of more of a broad-based party approach. There are some crooks in there, but I think once it gets right in front of them, these guys are going to be afraid to vote against it. There's just too much public sentiment. I think we're going to see something similar, maybe not the landslide that it was for the term limits law back when they voted against Maliki, but I think this one's going to be very interesting soon. By the way, now doesn't say when that's going to be voted on, but as of today, and for laws to be constitutional, they have to come out of Council of Ministers forwarded to the Parliament, or they have to come out from the President of the Republic. And this is exactly the direction that particular piece of legislation is going. Also, it said that and it was approved by the last part of this article, which I did put in the Observer, by the way. Speaking in the Observer, I'm going to make sure I put a copy of this in the blog. Also, it says, and approved by the Council of Ministers, the withdrawal of laws sent as projects to the Parliament by the previous government for the purpose of Missouri. That's Maliki's old government. They sent these laws to Parliament, and the Council of Ministers said, get that off the table. We don't want you thinking about that. So I would tend to believe that this early reporting out is, by the way, that article was brought into the Dinar Updates Iraq news thread early this morning by Holly One into the Dinar Updates chat room, and then posted by Ms. BGG for Holly One and for all you. Very, very good piece of investigation there. And to finish all of this off, let me see. Biggest news, and by the way, all those three things were very big news. The Doomberg article being refuted by the Parliamentary Finance Committee, Central Bank appearing to be more in line with the body's reforms. Number three, Maliki essentially, obviously this is the process of Maliki being gone, but that's official. Council of Ministers has moved forward on that. They are obviously moving legislation towards the Parliament to finalize that. That's bad news for him. So, could he pull a hat trick at the very end? Of course he could, but it looks like thus far he has been defeated on every turn continue that way. Fourth thing is that it appears, and I'm going to dig up some more hard information on this, but it appears, and I think I'll have an article for this on the blog yet today. Towards the end of the day, it says that the anti-money laundering law and the investment law appear to be on the Parliament agenda for Wednesday. And that's it. That's all ballgame, folks. That's it right there. Anti-money laundering law is what the Central Bank, the World Bank and the IMF asked for by October 1st. And that and the investment law, I have said for some time, anybody been listening? AML was asked for by the World Bank and the IMF by October 1st. And I said not required, but an investment law in that package would look very good for a body. And what that means is that would pave the way for international investment in Iraq. Probably what they've got to get done for this whole bond issue and everything else they got coming in the near future. But the AML law was insisted on by those world entities, and it has to do with this corruption that's been going on. It's pointed directly at Maliki. So it appears. Oh, and one added note, other than the fourth point here, is that apparently a body have asked for Parliament to host him. So I would suspect that he's going in there to stir up support for all three of these issues. That's the Maliki being gone, the withdrawal of those laws, the AML and investment law. I'm sure he's going in there to provide leadership to the Parliament, and that's fantastic. If that's what he's doing, that's, and I'm sure that's what it is. I mean, I'm sure he wants these, predominantly this law that they just turned out of that they just put out of the Council of Ministers, the anti-money laundering and investment law. So I don't see how a reasonable person wouldn't vote for all three of those, because it's fully to the advantage of the Iraqi citizen. So anything that goes against that in the very near future is purely partisan politics. But I don't think that's going to happen. So, having said that, that's fantastic news for today. Bloomberg article refuted by the Parliamentary Finance Committee. CBI seems to be much more in line with the body's reforms. Maliki is gone, and on the Parliament's agenda for Wednesday, reportedly, anti-money laundering law and investment law. Fantastic news. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate you for tuning in. That is it for today. Have a great afternoon.